Netflix's Twilight of the Gods, I thought was a pretty cool series. It had a lot of really excellent action. It had Norse mythology, which was a very interesting change of pace. Now, I like Greek mythology very, very much, but boy, I've seen enough of it just this year. And yeah, Norse mythology is different. I feel like if Greek stories, are usually about who is in love or banging who and how that messes with other people and how it gets, into a giant chaotic mess. In this case, it's more of who will kill who first and how brutal or honorable will their deaths be. Yeah, the Norse mythology seems to be a lot about, conquering and fighting and such. And you'd think, how is that sympathetic? Well, it's also got a little bit of a gruesome side to it that I find interesting and a nice, it's interesting to me. I have not seen other Zack Snyder stuff, so I didn't know what to expect with that name. And I will say, the man's got a bit of a horn dog side, but what's also a nice change is that, the men and ladies are equally pervy in this show. And that is cool. Yes, though I have heard the C word more times in this series than I think I have in all the other movies of my life combined. Which, good for the ladies. They don't take it as an insult so much as a point of pride. Sometimes it is used as a slur, but for the most part, people just own it with joy. So what is the story? So this half-giant warrior named Sigrid, she's about to get married. Aww. Yeah, her fiance is a nice guy, some kind of, I don't know, Viking king. No one says Vikings, but that's just where my brain goes. No one has the helmets, but the ships and all, yeah. Oh, an interesting little side note is that a lot of people, in their personal life, didn't think they would get married because Sigrid was never able to, have children with him, and they thought, okay, yeah, because he's king, he's gonna have to have, a wife and kids with somebody else, but they chose to stay together for years, and now they're getting married just because they want to be together, so good for them. They travel to Sigrid's giant home where, all of her family members are 4 times bigger than her, but love her so, so much. It's actually very, very sweet. And, while she's wearing her wedding dress and all that, while she's about to exchange vows, Thor, and I'm not talking about, friendly, laughable, easy to drink with Avengers Thor, but the gross, brutal, crazy eye Thor interrupts and for the pettiest reasons slaughters her whole giant family. Yeah, just slaughters. Oh, the blood and gore in this is ridiculous, but in the funnest way. Sorry, giants. The way it splatters, the way you can see all the gross and nasty stuff was so cool to me. It's okay, yeah, that's action. It makes up for all the other animated series and movies I've seen that don't show blood or guts, that don't show bruises. This makes up for it. And more. Yeah. And it's all done in such a quick pace that you don't really have time to examine the grossness or, just be grossed out by it as much as, yeah, these people have might and strength and they mean business. This is an actual fight where their lives are at stake and they know it. So yeah, Sigrid is just covered in blood. Oh, little other fun detail. All the blood in this show has swirly aspects. Yeah, I find that whimsome. Other people might find it silly and maybe make it a little goofy, but I don't know. I found it to be a style choice that was rather refreshing. So yeah, Sigrid is furious. All the joy in her heart, well, nearly all the joy in her heart has just evaporated, and she is just thirsty for revenge. It is the only thing on her mind right now. Her fiance, joins her because he loves her and all, but it is the only thing she cares about right now. Her whole family. So, she gathers, a nice little group of misfits. Let's see. One woman is a buddy from, their home village who, yeah, she's happy to fight. She's excited. She laughs at it. She isn't the complete, ridiculous comic relief as much as, she's just a grown woman who knows the job of her world and is, taking it with a little joy. Let's see. There's this bi, and yes, being bi is a big part of his character. Not in so much the tokeny way, in my opinion, as much as a here. This is how I meet certain people, and this is kind of my problem, or at least, yeah, how I meet certain people, kind of thing. He is not a warrior, but he does have a couple of magic tricks, and he's good at talking to people, so he's kind of useful. They meet a witch who, fun fact, in this like magical opening, people use the intestines, whether they be the enemies of other people or animals, to create magic. And oof, is that some dark magic there? I feel like people try to throw away the intestines, and now they're being used for something special. They were very important while we were alive. Why not be important in death? Oh, other little fun fact is this witch is trans, and well, good for her. The other thing is, I read that it was very common, like in the culture way back when, for trans women to take on this kind of role. Whether they were forced into it or if it was just a family thing, I don't know, but I like to think that, okay, people were a little more open minded about gender. It's nice to be reminded that being trans or binary isn't really a new fad as much as it's an old thing that people tried to erase. It's coming back up. Oh, and there's an elf. And I'm not talking about the mixed cookies in a shoe tree kind of elf, no. I'm talking about the kind of elf that is also a welder and has these crazy magical contracts with the weapons he makes. And has his own axe to grind, literally, with some other gods. Yeah, while Sigrid has her eyes on Thor, he has his eyes on Loki, and I gotta say, Loki in this is so charming. So much better than the Avengers one, in my opinion. I don't know, he takes somewhat glee in his ridiculous, mischief, like playing everyone against each other kind of thing. But then there's also the part where he's like, people always blame me for when they make bad decisions. Aw. But the truth is, I can't ever tell if he's acting. Like, which part is he acting, or is he doing so, like, sincerely? I cannot tell. I cannot tell his total motives. Even when he says them, they kind of change over the time in the courses. He kind of, will stand behind whoever he thinks has a better chance of winning. The only thing that I think is genuine is he loves his monster kids. Yeah, Odin and Thor have not treated his kids well, so the part where he's happy to, attack the family, or at least his fellow gods, yeah, it makes sense when you watch this show and you see how his kids were treated. His kids are now young adults with their own, god positions and whatnot. But yeah, he still feels guilt and worry for them, like a dad. So that was sweet. But yeah, this fantasy world is just so refreshing because it's not really like other stuff I've seen. In this world, apparently the gods of Asgard were the second wave, and the first wave are kind of rotting because they have less worship. Funny enough, it ironically reminds me of the plot in the American Gods, novel and series. Yeah. And yeah, just the contracts between life and death, and how defeat is characterized, like she is personified, is funny. It's like, hi, I'm your defeat. It's kind of like when the hormone monsters came when you hit puberty. In this case, I'm defeat. And yeah, I leave a trail of blood behind you because that's your shame. Like, wow, dignity is really based on skill in this world. Yeah, yeah. There aren't so many forced funny moments, which I find to be a huge relief, but there are moments, where the characters show they care about each other. Another little thing I really liked about it was the dialogue. They really kept it into a way that I have no idea how back in the day really sounded, but it kind of reminds me when you read that epic Beowulf, the way it's kind of cut and almost poetic. I don't know, it's done well, so it definitely cuts the point. But the way the grammar is a bit different, and I don't know, it makes it more believable. It really places me in their world a bit because it's so different. But yeah, it's not without its humor and its dirty jokes. So, Oh my god, I hope this gets a second season. Animation has not been treated well lately, so I have my doubts. But I'd love it. I'd love if this got a second season. I want to see what happens to the other characters besides Sigrid and her fiance. I want to see what they're going to do next. I really, really do. Oh, the animation is so nice. Years ago, there was this really lame Canadian show called Stoked about these surfers, and the way it was animated, the color choices for the waves was stunning, but it was an incredibly boring show. This show kind of has that style, only with more cooler colors, but it's done so beautifully, so wonderfully. It's not so much abstract, but it is, there are no lines around the characters as much as they are just like color, wonderful, like ridiculous, very geometrical kind of shapes. But God, it works. The flow of it, the designs, ugh, it works. It works for me. So I would really like it if it had a second season. I really would. But I've become very pessimistic for animation these days. Now, do I think this show is for everybody? I can easily see some people saying it's too objectifying. To me, it seemed pretty equal for, both sexes, so that didn't bother me as much. And some people might not like the style of this weird fantasy, but that's just them. Do I definitely think it's for teenagers and up? Sure. If middle schoolers see it, fine, but oh my. So, yeah, do I think anyone who likes watching TV will like this? No, I think you gotta be hardcore into mythology and some kind of cartoon action. I really liked it though. I really did. I want to see what happens next. Part of me wants to read the mythology to see what might happen, but from what I read about the Olympian gods, that, people, even back, like, BC, there were different interpretations of stories and different routes, so I don't know which plotline is, the canon, the pure, the, origin one, yada yada. And, the writers could take a different turn from it anyway. I don't know, but I do want to know. So, Twilight of the Gods, I thought you were great. Oh, almost forgot, there is a werewolf character in this show, and he is the creepiest thing. Not exaggerating, he is the creepiest thing.